All right. What's up, everybody? We're live for another episode of Talking Ship, where we go through old CrossFit media, some of my favorites, some of my guests' favorite old videos, the things that got us hooked on CrossFit back in the day. Today, lucky enough to be joined by Mr. Monroe Miller himself. What's up, dude?
What's up?
Fun thing. We actually started the Talking Ship show together. We were going to do podcasts about I don't know, anything CrossFit. We're going to talk about coaching, up-to-date topics, what's going on in the space. And then basically Monroe's just doing way too much. He's way too busy with his own content creation. So he just completely ditched me. No, I'm totally kidding. But he's working on so much actually like really cool stuff. If you want to tell people what you got working.
Yeah, I mean, you are 100% correct that I'm working on way too much. And I feel like, at least in the last few months, I've kind of started to look at things like, what do I need to focus on? What's actually going to what are the big projects that I can do? And starting to delegate other things. But I've been writing a book. So trying to basically take the coaching that I do on Instagram and translate that into written word, just because everybody learns differently. And I want to be able to impact as many people as I can and help as many people as I can. And, I'd like it to be something where someone would have never seen my content or know me and be able to pick up the book and use it to help them improve in their fitness journey. So I've been doing that.
I mean, before you skip past the book, yeah. I have to say, you've shared some details of the book with me. I've got to see some of the stuff. I know a lot about your coaching, more so than even others that follow you. Mm-hmm. I think the book, if you find the right team to help you promote it when it's ready to go, I think it may be the single best book ever put out in the CrossFit community in terms of teaching people how to coach. There's no, the level 1's great. Don't get me wrong. And the level 2 in person is great too. But once that stuff ends, there's no one that's really diving into the nitty gritty of movement. Nobody. Yeah. You have to go through your own research on YouTube, other stuff. And then you're picking and choosing who you think has it right. And right. I know all the stuff I've ever seen from you, you're super detail oriented. And I know the book is going to just deliver so much more than people are going to get, even from cruising through YouTube and stuff like that. So I think that the book, it could be life-changing for you. I think if enough people see it, it could literally be life-changing. It's going to be that good. So anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I'm doing it for the impact and I want it to be right. So I'm going to take as much time as I need with it. And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of doing it blindly, but Carl Ekelman from Whiteboard Daily.
The doodles there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's done some illustrations of some videos that I've made in the past. And so I kind of had a connection with him. I submitted a proposal to Victory Belt Publishing. So we'll see kind of what the next steps are there, but I'm still waiting to hear back from them.
Cool.
And then I'm doing a lot of online coaching, just trying to build my little online community, trying to help as many people as I can. I love technique coaching, simple, quick cues and helping people in that way. Helping people lose 20 pounds or, writing a really cool program for them to do. That doesn't get me as fired up as teaching them one little thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing. But yeah.
That's a funny mix of instant gratification on the little cues you're giving people to see fast results and the process of writing a super comprehensive CrossFit encyclopedia. Yeah. So that's kind of funny, both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah, my goal with everything is to try and be as simple and as understandable as I can. I always try to not use all the medical jargon and all the super fancy words and the external, internal rotation, all that. I try and just say hey, put your knees here. And that seems to connect with people. So
I think that's all people need for the most part. Yeah. Okay. So awesome. Let's get into some of the videos. You sent me some stuff that you like. What year did you start CrossFit? You've been around a while.
2011.
Okay.
2010. 2011 was my first open.
Okay.
It was in November of 2010. I think I actually stepped into the gym the first time.
Okay. Awesome. So I would say around that time, content was just barely starting to pick up. So prior to 2009, 2008, we have all the old school HQ videos. Did you ever get in any of that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you watch that stuff? Yeah. What
Yeah.
was your, do you have any
like the original CrossFit gym?
Yeah. Like what
Yeah.
stood out to you from that place? Anything in particular?
So I mean, like all the WOD demos, obviously, with like the little yellow. Like I vividly remember watching Nancy for some reason. I think it was because like that was a workout that we had tested at my first gym pretty frequently. The owner liked it for some reason, and so there would always be that video attached to it. So that was kind of, seeing the workout that the owner would post, and then sometimes he'd post like the little CrossFit video. That's how I got sucked into the CrossFit content ecosphere. So.
Cool. Well, you sent me a couple things to look at, and I think they're very entertaining. So we're going to dive into some of them. First and foremost, I thought this was an interesting pick from you. We're going to go into the world of Westside Barbell and CrossFit's relationship.
Oh, yeah. No, I took the CrossFit powerlifting cert, and that like changed my life. Like right before we opened our gym. So I have a lot of respect for Louis Simmons and Conjugate and all that.
Wait, you did this? You did the lesson?
No, it was Shane Sweat and Laura Sweat.
Okay.
So they were teaching CrossFit powerlifting at that time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, increased force production like that. The whole concept behind that was like mind blowing for me at the time.
Over here. Ivan, over here.
Balls and Dave with Louis. R.I.P. Louis.
Balls with short hair.
I know.
And no tattoos.
Looks like a kid. Guess he probably was.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, if you want to train jumpers, the first progression is to set him. If you bring me a bar, you're going to sit down on the ground. You're going to clean and press away while you're sitting down. It builds all the muscles. Maybe get you to do it too. Okay. Just the press.
So clean from the
okay.
From the side.
Yeah, but I want you to sit down on your butt. Just put your legs up front of you. Both of you.
Have you ever tried to do this?
Maybe a little bit because I use Z press a lot. So but I've never tried to jump to my feet. But like seated presses and things for sure. But not what they're about to do. I've never tried.
We don't have her do it because it's got to be pretty hard.
It's probably surprisingly challenging.
Hopefully you're going to feel this. You're going to feel this in your entire body. Okay. Pass her the ball. You're looking too good over there.
Amazing overhead position from Boz, of course.
Who's that?
She's probably just there taking the cert. I'm not sure who that is.
You got like 4:30 left.
Now let's give him the bar.
Dave looks so
and
young.
You can work each day as you go. Now, now put it across your thighs.
I think this was around 2011 or so.
Jump up into the power clean.
So from here?
Yep. Okay.
I think with an empty bar, this does have like some value
the
though.
Split is the last thing. Okay. Now I don't know if you can do this. Once you master that.
All right. So in terms of value, what do you think? Like just the brutal hip extension?
Yeah, because it forces you. Like I noticed that some people try to move weight or move their body with their knee extension and not their hip extension because they can cheat that way.
Right.
And like your knee extension is like really important, but if you have like a muted hip or something, like some people can't even do that without the weight.
That's true.
Like, even if you just get down and try and do a jump from your knees, like that's pretty hard. So I think there's definitely value to it. Do you know to like load that up and train it or like put that into your cycle? No, I don't think so.
Is it a bit gimmicky? Like, should they just be focusing on like just jumping from that kneeling position and maybe even adding height to that versus like trying to add weight to that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like the utility of any of these things is in like a personal training context. So like if someone you're working with one-on-one has an issue and you're like, hey, let's see if you can do this to feel what I want you to feel over here. I think that has a ton of value. And a bunch of other weird exercises do too. But just being like, man, I struggle with hip extension. How do I add knee snatches into my program? Like, I think that's dumb. So it becomes gimmicky as opposed to helpful when you're just sprinkling it in for everybody.
This is how you develop jump. This is explosive power.
There's no half-ass in this stuff for you to hurt.
But is it usable explosive power?
Oh, look at
That's
that, dude. This here will build some
impressive,
tremendous jumping ability. Absolutely. I talked to.
But it looks like he's
some
using his
and they
arms
were
before he
astounded
uses
because
his
they
hips,
thought,
right?
you
See
know,
the same
you
thing?
couldn't do 2 1/4
So it's really like a
snatch
big
this.
swing
There's
and then
something wrong
a
with it.
jump into the hip.
You know, these are overseas. Yeah. No, they thought that was like, but they were 370 snatchers. But this is how they partly developed it. And they just was in.
Yeah, I mean,
why can't people
I think
do
Louis is
this?
awesome.
I don't know.
I
They
think that
can't.
like he talks in a way that like makes him sound smarter than maybe he is. And I'm sure he knows what he's talking about, but like we were just saying a minute ago, like just because you know what, you know, femoral internal rotation, like doesn't mean you can help people that way.
Right. The thing I really admired most about Louis was essentially he recognized the importance and value of a GPP style of training with very specific power lifters, right? So he used a lot of that in conjugate. And so that I really applaud, because so many people are so narrow focused. Even some of the greatest coaches ever within their respective sport have very narrow focuses and have just worked with good athletes or had a little bit of luck in terms of the kind of building their stable and having that. I think Louis really developed a lot of people truly by mixing things up in the way he built conjugate. So, I mean, in that sense, I have a ton of respect for him. The one thing I'll add is, people who then CrossFitters who then try to use some of his lifting cycles or some of his programs or whatever within their CrossFit program. In context now, everybody that followed Westside is on steroids. That's an open conversation they have. So the recovery factor from what the volume these powerlifters were doing mixed with their GPP style accessory work, they were able to recover from these huge, brutal training sessions. Like, unless you're a CrossFitter using steroids, you're not going to be able to anyway.
Right. No, I mean, and I think that there's value in the concept of conjugate training.
For sure.
And I think you can apply that to, it's basically CrossFit, but squat, bench, deadlift. And all you're doing is varying the bars, and you're having dynamic effort day and max effort day. So it's like kind of similar in a way. But when I took that powerlifting course, like I was super obsessed. And like, if you look back at the videos in this time, there's 20 videos of Louis Simmons working with CrossFit, talking about different things. And so, I have a bamboo bar, I've got a safety squat bar, I've got chains, I've got axles. Like, I don't know, as a gym owner, like in CrossFit, like you don't really need that. It's cool once in a while. Like I did squats with chains the other day. Yeah. It's great. Helps increase force production. It's a good variance if you're so sick of just doing back squat all the time. Or like that day, my knees were bugging me. And I was just like, man, I don't feel like when it says go heavy on a set of 5, I'm going to try and push to like a heavy set, but I can change the bar or change the chains or do whatever and change it in a way that still makes it really challenging, but isn't loading my body so hard. So I think there's value in it.
And like, I like bench pressing. I have little noodle legs. I like upper body stuff, but sometimes my shoulders and elbows don't want to bench press, but you could always throw bands with a couple kettlebells on the end of a barbell and get a brutal bench session in without having to super load it. So those concepts are they can keep you going. If the worst thing is the variance it provides allows you to keep training at bare minimum. So
for sure.
All right, cool. We'll move past Louis for now, but I thought that was a cool. I hadn't thought about him in Westside for some time. All right, we'll move right along. Let's see what else.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Man, yeah. His methodology will live on, though. That's for sure.
Yep.
All right, this is one from me. I thought this was a funny one. I remember watching this video way too many times for how it's not that great, but I watched it way too many times just because I thought it was interesting. And you'll see in a second. I literally made one of these for my gym, one of my first gyms back in the day.
Did you?
Set your hands evenly. By using
dude, it's Nick Massey
full of water.
from Paleo Power Meals.
Ice Age Meals.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
You gotta get it up
Go support Ice Age Meals.
From
He was
there,
an OG in videos
we push
too.
our shoulders up into our ear.
Cooking with CrossFit or
Yep, he's got a whole stuff like that.
Overhead.
that's a terrible overhead position.
And we kind of say 5 minutes is the gold standard for us. So if you hold this bad boy, 5 minutes.
Heel slosh.
Is that Boz or
I think Rory's there with them.
with short hair?
But I remember seeing this whatever, 2009, 2010. I was like, I have to make one of those. I ran to Home Depot the same day. I think I played with it twice ever, and then ended up in the dumpster about 4 months later.
Yeah. Greg Hammond.
Greg from CrossFit too.
Yeah, it's cool. Is that Greg Everett in the back? He's in a ton of those early videos.
Yeah. So this kind of, again, this video is more of a blast from the past for me, but it also reminded me of a little bit of some of the, I won't say gimmicky, but different things we just talked about with Westside, just like loading the overhead position with something that's completely unstable. It's just completely out of the norm of something you would ever feel. You wouldn't, there's nothing else like this that you would feel in life. So it's just so different. It catches people off guard.
There's a bunch of, now there's a bunch of products that are like that, like little water bags and
yeah, true.
Ones that have like handles where you can do like cleans with them and stuff.
There's Rory.
Yeah.
Young Rory. But slosh pipe aside, I just like this style of video. I just found this to be entertaining and funny, and like I just like ate this stuff up.
Yeah, there was a lot of that early on. Like, there's a lot of like the kettlebell stuff with Jeff Martone and like the striking stuff. Like, it was so weird because like in the beginning, like CrossFit's like, oh well, you know, constantly varied, anything goes kind of theory, and so then it's like, oh well, where's the end of anything goes? So like at my first CrossFit gym, there was heavy bags because striking was like a thing at the time and people were into it. So like, I don't know, I feel like all of that stuff is more, again, a personal training or a one-on-one kind of thing. What does this person need? I don't think that's like how you should do CrossFit.
I agree with you on that. And what's funny is like, we could probably spend 2 hours if I said, define function for me, define functional fitness for me, and like what movement should fall into that category. And we could go back and forth on that for 2 hours, debating the nuance of each movement of what is actually functional and what's not. So like, it's so tough to know what is worth mixing in regularly or what should be like a one-off experience. Like, I think you were saying the striking. I'm trying to think of that guy's name.
I mean, I think it depends on what your goal, like what you're trying to do. Like if you CrossFit, and this is something I keep going back to, CrossFit was never started as a group fitness class experience. It was supposed to be, hey, you're training. Here's a training program for you to be prepared for the unknown and the unknowable. It wasn't, how do we fit this into a 60-minute class? And so when people are like, why is some of these things a thing? It's like, it makes sense for you to do a 10K ruck on one day, but like, you can't program that for a class.
Right.
But then is the class doing CrossFit, or are we doing group CrossFit class? You know,
I mean, Greg was a personal trainer. He had clients that would come into his gyms and he would give them, and he would talk about like, I've listened to endless interviews. I can't remember where I heard this one, but he gave like the basketball team, the mixed martial arts program, and the mixed martial artists, the basketball program. The point is, it's all the same, right? So he's just giving this broad, inclusive program to everybody. And it was never the group class experience. And I actually don't know a lot about when or how it got adapted from the personal training or small group experience with a trainer to this class model. It's actually really,
I mean, it was never supposed to be an affiliate model either. Like we weren't,
but I guess, so how do you know the story and how it got there?
Like Greg Glassman was teaching this, and he had CrossFit.com, and then the military and the first responders latched onto it because it was a great way to prepare yourself for the unknown and the unknowable. And it was this tip of the spear Forging Elite Fitness blog page. And then a bunch of people like went out to California and were like, hey, we want to do this. Like, we want to share what you have taught us to all these other people. And then Greg was like, oh shit, I got to figure out how to make an affiliation program. So that's why it's set up where it's like, hey, run your gym however you want.
Yeah.
Like you're just licensing my teaching is how Greg originally set that up. And I don't think he ever intended it to be a sport or a group. Like, no. I don't think and so then it's like, it gets 10 years down the road and you're like, what is this? It's a bunch of things because it wasn't set up to be any of those things to start with.
The seminar that, if I'm not mistaken, the L1 seminar came long before the like class and affiliate model, right? Like people wanted to learn more. And then he was basically meeting people at these seminars that wanted to then affiliate.
Right. And those were like the licensing for the affiliates, like in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's why, that's why it's not really a great business model, because it didn't, and if you want to break the whole thing and start it somewhere else, you can. But
yeah.
Sorry, let's move on.
Nope, you're good. Speaking of Greg, we're going to pretty much go through a few Greg videos here. So let me get them queued up. All right. This is more recent. This was actually closer to the end of Greg's time at CrossFit, but I thought this was really cool. And so did you, because you told me to play it. All right.
Well, you put these on the program. You put these on the 90 like a week ago.
Yeah, the swing into it.
Yeah.
I think swinging into it's way harder.
It is. It is. I thought that might give some more momentum, but
there's another thing where it's like,
to review,
is it helping your fitness in a group class?
Inverted hang.
This movement?
No. I mean, yeah, you're not going to program that in a class. Like, you're not doing backward roll to support for time, but
but you could do a specialty class. You could do a specialty class. Like I know in some of my gyms, we do gymnastics seminars every 6 to 8 weeks or something. And there are people who, if you wanted to make this your focus, you could teach this. And we have coaches who are capable of doing this, teaching this, all that stuff. And then people who can't do it can go all the way back down to a simple, ring support or something like that. So
I think it's valuable. I think it's super valuable, even just from like a play aspect. Like I think not enough athletes play with their fitness. And this is like a situation where it's like, dude, you do tons of ring muscle ups all the time. Can you put your body in this weird position to do this weird thing? And it starts to like open your brain up to be able to do other movements and be better in as a whole. So,
yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool. I think the bigger takeaway from this is just Greg's coaching. I'm just obsessed with the way he talks and coaches and commands attention.
For sure.
And it's also cool to see people around him or anywhere who know they're being filmed potentially humiliate themselves in something they've never done before.
Muscle up.
I just like everything about it.
Try and get your center of mass on the other side of the rings so that you roll to upright. And that's really all that happens. Look, from here, sneak around, and what happens is when my hands come out to the side, it's because in the sneak through, I've tipped over, and I'm rotating now, and you end up on top.
Cool.
Make it look so easy.
Carry show 'em.
I haven't got one yet.
Have you tried this?
Yeah, I've tried a bunch.
There's a drill you can do with a band that is super helpful that Carpelli has.
Ooh, send that to me.
Yeah, well.
Shrug.
You love it because he's a coach first.
Yeah, for sure.
Like he loves helping
Put your
people
feet to
with
the
the
wall.
movement. Like
Open your butt up. There you go. Go.
in Marston.
Go.
You can even see in his posture, he walks away like, I just helped you get that. This is so
Trying to
fulfilling.
turn
I feel the same
and
way.
he's like,
Yep.
just fighting it. He's got the strength to this. He just confused which way to go. Lift your chin. Whoops. And keep the rings in close. Big false grip. Get
The
the rings
original
up real high when you get upside down.
Robinson.
Get them way up in there.
Yep. He's an OG.
Yeah. Keep him in.
I need to find
There
a
you
way
go.
to get him on the show.
Look up.
I got to get one of
Thanks,
these.
me. No, you're supposed to act
Yeah,
like
when I did it with the band, it does like you flip around and you're just like, oh, that worked. It's crazy.
Okay, I definitely need to try that because so this just brings up a broader topic, this video in general. I watched this video and I am immediately now determined when I get into the gym in a couple hours, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try to do it again. And that's what these videos did for me the whole time after I first found CrossFit. All the WOD demo videos, everything. Yep. The second I watched it, it's like, okay, off the computer, go in the gym. I'm going to try to replicate what I just saw. And that, I don't get that sort of inspiration from anything else, anywhere else in my life. Like, I don't know why this is so contagious to me and obviously others like that.
Yeah, it is weird. And like people talk about like even the athletes from that time were like more interesting, more like, and I don't know what to tell you, but like the people that are there now just like don't do it for me in the same way.
It may be the people, or it may be that they're just not being presented the same way.
Do you think
like,
that's what it is? You think it's
I
that the
do.
presentation isn't?
I do. I think that, like, why would I know all the names of all the past media people before we're at today? So like if I'm at the CrossFit Games, let's say in 2014-15 with some of my athletes, I'm at the CrossFit Games hotel staying with them for the week, and I know the name of every single media person that works for CrossFit walking around. Why should I know that at that time? Why would I know them? Because in their content, they're not necessarily featured, but they're a part of the story. They are the storytellers, and you get to know who the storytellers are showing me this stuff. I knew they were. I don't know. I couldn't name anyone that works for HQ in the media department now. I don't think. Maybe one or two people, but I don't know who they have. When this whole,
that's also the direction though. Like Greg was like about this, where he's like, hey, like this is clearly at HQ, and it looks like they were all just like working on something else, and he was just like, hey guys, come in here, like let's screw around with this, and then the cameras go on, and then he's like, hey, let's just teach you how to do this really quick, and it's like, it was like the love that he had for that, and the love that we as a community had for everything that was going on with that, is why the content was so good. And now it's just like, it just seems like, oh, let's pump out a video to like get views instead of like, hey, let's just show what's awesome that we're doing. And like, I'm sure there's not somebody at HQ that's like, hey, let's go do a handstand walk race in the parking lot and film it and put it on YouTube. Like that would be cool to watch then.
Yes, that would be awesome. And like, it feels like the media nowadays, everything has to be so produced and so dramatic. Like you have to tell me the backstory of this tragedy that happened in the gym that made this person then change their life with CrossFit. Like everybody has a backstory, how they got in the gym and got into CrossFit. Like some of them are cool, but I don't need to hear everyone's story all the time. I just want to I just want to get pulled in to see some content. And like, this does it for me. And like you said, if they went out there and goofed off and did a whole bunch of handstand walk races in the parking lot, I would watch that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a lot of the old stuff is. So,
yep.
You want to finish this video? You want to move on to a couple more?
Yeah, we move on.
All right, let's move on. All these videos, by the way, guys, are all linked in the description. So if you want to watch any of them in full, I recommend it. All right. So we have 2 more Greg videos. More old school stuff. I had a bunch more I want to get into, but I know we don't have time today. We'll do it another time. All right, let me cue this bad boy up. I need to get a real setup soon.
What do you mean real?
Mic, second monitor, so I can easily switch back and forth between videos and what I'm doing.
Yeah,
it's all right. We'll get there. We'll get there. If people keep tuning in, we'll get there. And they are. Coming. All right. The GHD, the forbidden fruit in CrossFit gyms.
The sit-up machine. That's not a sit-up machine.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Come back and touch. Good. Now, from there, I might have her do a set.
Agree, Chris. Agree.
For a set. And it's not until she's had several doses from horizontal that I would let her go back and hyperextend and touch alternate arms. Very advanced movement. By the way, this
would you say so?
Potent
advanced
flexor move. And there are people.
What does that word even mean?
Yeah. Well,
it will tell you
it's not high skill.
I think the demand it requires, which he'll obviously talk about, I think is slightly higher skill. And I think range of motion is slightly higher, or at least it's uncomfortable for people for a while.
Do you think that's because most people's hips are broken?
For sure. Most people's hips are closed up. They're just completely sandwiched from sitting.
So when they swing back, they just jack their back up?
Pretty much, I'd say that's part of it. But also, like, there is like there's more than one way to do a GHD, right? We know that. But like the way that they teach it, the classic style with the squeezing of the quads to fire the hip, to engage the midline, to pull your trunk up, that does take timing, just like learning an Olympic lift and making hip contact takes timing. And so I do think it's more advanced than sitting back over an ab mat and then squeezing your abs and sitting up or something like that. But maybe not quite a snatch.
There's no shortening of the midline. There's no trunk flexion. Therefore, this is not an ab movement. Anyone ever heard anything like that? Watch this and just keep it all open. Just hip flex up. Boom. That line stayed nice and full open.
People don't do that.
Now you can do some flexion on the way up, but it's not really under a load, and it's all fairly insignificant to the movement, and not at all required to get a brutal ab response. And it is isometric and powerful and enough to put a hurt on you that does muscle damage.
I think that's the funny thing about this. So he's talking about how, like, if you're not flexing the trunk, right, you're not getting an ab workout is what people would originally kind of assume. But then, like, the isometric, basically all the things we do in CrossFit, whether it's heavy lifting, whatever else, if we're not flexing the trunk, we are engaging the core like violently in a very strong isometric hold, which probably is more value than actually just like opening and closing the trunk, right? Being able to have a true isometric hold. And so this is sort of like highlighting whether you can do that effectively or not, and for how long, because with every rep, that isometric hold gets worse and worse and worse, and your hip flexors get more and more tired. So yeah, I mean,
isometrics and eccentrics are so underutilized. It is isometric.
It is. It absolutely is. If it's done right, it's isometric in the sense that
you shouldn't be flexing your trunk.
Right. So that's part of it. Is it's a quad to hip flexor pull, and I mean you can. So like we could talk about the fact that
you could worm it and make it not isometric.
There's a lot of ways to do GHDs, and I think the other thing that we kind of had talked about was like in class again. Would you put a GHD in your class? Maybe.
I mean, yeah. For people that can do it, I don't have enough machines. I'm not getting 8 GHDs so we can do a full class of them. No, I have 3.
Yeah. I have a varied amount depending on which gym, but I bring them into class. Sometimes you see them kind of on our our Thursdays, like a skill day. We'll go over the GHD. We'll teach it. We'll try to give people fair warning, like, hey, if you want to do this at the end of class for a little extra once a week, that's great. Here's your volume. Here's about what you should be doing. Like he kind of talks about in here, but yeah, it's tough to put into class. But this machine has become featured in the sport side of things. And when you start to go into sport, range of motion and purpose changes, right? So now we're talking about being efficient, being able to do as many reps as possible, completing point A to point B, as opposed to getting the most brutal dose of midline isometric work that you can. Like there's a big difference there, would you say?
Yeah. And I think that's like, what's the point of the training, you know? So like people don't train CrossFit that are doing the sport, most of them. And the people that, you know, look at this kind of thing and they're like, oh, well, that's not CrossFit. It's like, well, yeah, it is. Going super slow and controlling yourself and controlling your movement and like trying to do the GHD setup in this way, I think has its place, just like trying to go fast with it and do it for a sport context. But I don't think, and like I get that a lot because I'm teaching technique on my Instagram page a lot, and people are like asking questions about like things that are in line with a sport and not like in line with health, and the way that like that guy or whoever was CrossFit. And he's like, oh, well, that's a no. Like people will say, oh, well, that's a no rep. It's like, well, yeah, it doesn't matter that it's a no rep. Like it's done in this way when we're talking about training versus sport. So like what you're saying with the sport, with the GHD, there's this whole conversation about like where your hips go on the pad. And if you actually don't do what he's saying, the quad flex, like it shortens the range of motion and you just kind of like worm yourself back and touch. Then you're getting your abs really strong in flexion, but you're not getting your hip flexion as strong. I don't know what's better. What's your goal?
Well, yeah, exactly. Better. I don't know if there is a better, right? It's like a mix of both. And but yeah, I think it's interesting. I like this movement. I think it's I just think it. I like the movement.
You like it for sport?
I think it's fine. It's not my favorite. I think it's not exciting to watch. It's kind of boring. It's a fine test. It's a fine thing to like, if there's another feature within the workout that's like, let's say like they like to pair GHD with rope climbs. I like that because the GHD is something, as long as there's a clear standard, everyone's doing these reps, it's fatiguing. And then the highlight of the rope comes out, right? And how much midline stability do you really have if you're doing legless, or can you even pick your knees up to your chest anymore to shorten your pull from 4 pulls to 2 pulls to get up there faster, more efficient. So I like it in those terms, how it's an interfering movement with so many things by itself. I don't want the open to be like 100 GHD sit-ups for time.
I hate doing them.
Yeah. Oh, you hate
them? Oh my God. Yeah. Every dude. And you always seem to program GHD handstand walk, which is just literally headache central for me, at least. Every time that comes up, I'm like, GHD handstand walk, I hate.
And so, well, like the way that I look at training is I like to put people in pre-fatigued situations for a number of reasons. One, I think when you fatigue something and then make you work through a particular skill set or range of motion, you get like what I would call like super recruitment. So you don't just use the big obvious movers that get you through, that you're comfortable with when you're not fatigued or you're warming up or whatever. But when you're like, your body's really good at recruiting, your central nervous system's super good, super efficient at recruiting. And the more time you spend under fatigue having to accomplish a goal, the better your CNS gets at demanding certain things work. Yep. And that's the way my brain works when I program things, is I don't want to over fatigue, but I want to put you in a situation where your body has to overcome and adapt and get better. That's kind of
for sure. And
so
I think
that's good for that.
Yeah, that's super cool. Like, and that's what I tell people about like the percentage stuff. Like we kind of joke about it where we're like, oh yeah, Seth doesn't program percentages, but like this Metcon you're going to do prior will put you at 70%. Like right. You're not going to be able, or like the way the time is, or like,
exactly.
Let me make you echo bike beforehand. So like, sorry, bud, you're not going to match your snatch, even though it says do a single. Like,
Right. And that's all intentional too. And it should be for any program is understanding how to manipulate the details to get the desired result without having to prescribe this very rigid way of doing things. But anyway, that's a tangent for another day. We got one more video.
Yep.
We're running out of time here. My self-imposed time. I'm not running out of time, but I just try to keep the shows reasonable. All right. Last thing. Everybody's favorite.
What, the GHD or this video?
The med ball clean.
Arch chest up, arms roughly perpendicular, if not forward. You're going to see her come up and shrug.
You have an opinion about this?
You do, or are you asking?
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of hover there, and then it's happening.
Let's let him talk for a second, then I'm gonna let you go nuts.
Okay.
And then stand. But there would be a cord extremity violation.
You're getting a compliment on your mustache there from Ortega.
She were to come up and right about here. If the arms bend, that's a huge below it, right? Cord extremity. The hip has to finish before the shrug. Okay? So just like that sumo deadlift high pull, this she's going.
All right, the old Pat shirt.
So they say quarter extremity. Going back to the GHD, don't they say you flex your quads and extend your knees before you flex your hip? This has always confused me, but I don't want to backtrack to that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting point. But okay.
So the med ball clean. Another thing that I understand the point, but I think that it misses the point. This is one of the 9 foundational movements in CrossFit, and none of us ever do it. I don't understand why. Well, I do understand, but they should just remove this and put the barbell clean in. Like why move the medicine ball other than the visual representation of not turning the ball? But
Which is a good cue.
sure, but you're also, that's not the way it works with a barbell.
Right.
And like getting into this big, like this position that he's like having them be in, like you're never there holding at the top like that. You extend your hips and go under. And the shrug is an effect of moving around the weight, not an effect of moving the weight. So when you teach people to do this, then they start to pull with their arms in the clean. And then it's like, well, was that really valuable? And so like as a progression, I think, sure, again, you want to teach someone, hey, hold this. We're going to do this drill. But I don't think that this replaces the clean, which I think is what they were trying to say.
Yeah. I understand it in the terms of, well, I only semi-understand it in the terms of like being a group-friendly way to teach something, right? And actually, I will admit, I use this once a week. Not in my normal classes. We have, I teach right now, I'm teaching these foundations groups for people who basically never done CrossFit, not even sure that they're doing CrossFit at a gym that's anyway.
Right.
So I use this with people who just really, even if I gave them a 35-pound bar, they're like, oh my God, that's so heavy. So I'm not even entering that world with them yet. You know what I mean? So this is sort of the testing coordination, teaching some patterns, giving them some concepts. So I do use it from time to time. So I see the utility of it, but I do prefer to teach all my affiliate classes with an empty bar or a PVC or anything else like that. So yeah, I'm a hair torn on it. I hadn't used it probably for 8 years until just recently when it was kind of put into a foundations program. I'm like, okay, I'm going to work with this. Actually, I kind of can use this.
Yeah. So in the context that you're talking about, yeah, I totally agree. You're teaching someone, like I get it. The other thing that this is like, this is like a sumo deadlift, or it's like a sumo clean pull. So like,
right.
It like in the next progression is to the barbell clean. Like people want to learn the barbell clean. You can't load the medicine ball clean. So its utility is only in teaching you how to clean a dumbbell or a barbell.
Yeah.
You don't learn the hook grip, and you learn a weird set position with your hands inside your knees.
Yes.
So it's like, then people go to the clean and they put their hands outside their knees and they're like, holy crap, my back gets all messed up, because you're not in that same, it's not like a sumo deadlift. It's a conventional setup.
But I would say you're right. You're 100% right about all that. But I would also say if you're teaching the med ball clean and then you're teaching the barbell clean, there's a couple things. One, I don't know if you do it this way. I usually teach the barbell clean top down. I just find that to be easier to get the pattern going. And two, if I'm teaching the med ball clean and the barbell clean to someone who's new, they probably don't even remember all the points of performance, even if I've gone through the med ball clean with them twice. They don't remember where their feet are going or where their hands were or have been. You're teaching them like it's new again anyway, right? True. So it's like, so in that sense, I don't worry about like, oh, I'm giving them bad habits. Habits are not even formed yet. They're just starting to move and gain concepts. And then as they get into regular class, I can drill things. Like, I don't know how many times I've taught the same deadlift progression over the past 3 months at this gym up here in the North Shore. Like I'm pounding this in their head about where their feet go, where their hands go, how to set up, where the weight is in their feet, and like what the pull should be. I pound that. And so I'm not worried about what they're doing as long as they're moving safe, getting some basic concepts and some coordination going. And then once they get beyond this, they're going to get these like, the hang clean, the deadlift, shoulder, like these other things are going to be pounded into them, at least the way that I coach. And I know that's not the case everywhere, but
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't see the value past the first step. And it's like, for me, it's like, well, if I'm going to teach this and then move them to a barbell, I might as well just start with the barbell. They're going to learn more correctly from the beginning, I think. That's just, I don't know. That's my opinion about it. But yeah.
I have no problem.
This and the sumo deadlift high pull, I'm like,
we could have gone to that one. I don't actually understand. I understand this more than I understand the sumo deadlift high pull, like the purpose of it. I don't understand why that's not the clean. And then this would be something else. Like, I don't know why it's not deadlift clean snatch or something like that.
Exactly. And this is not the topic of the show, obviously, but I think that they need to restructure the whole damn thing. I think that CrossFit is going to break in 5 to 10 years because it's just going to get so muddy about what it's trying to be and what its purpose is.
Yeah.
Like, I think that CrossFit needs to ditch the affiliate side and they need to ditch the game side, and they just need to focus on health and fitness, be the best health and fitness education company you can be, and then have the sport be handled by someone and have the affiliates be a separate thing. Like, I don't think that.
Why did you have to open this can of worms 45 minutes into our
Sorry, I mean the
conversation?
method, like,
You
so, like,
open that-
methodology, this 9 foundational movements doesn't make sense anymore. And like, it's okay. Like, I don't get why people won't just say, hey, it's time for us to update the manual. Like, and that's part of what I'm trying to do with this book is like get people to realize, like, hey, like, there is something that is like the activity CrossFit, and then there's this company. Yeah. And those, like, we love the activity, and we're all frustrated with the company because the company is trying to say what the activity is now. And it's like,
let's answer this really quick. We'll wrap up with answering this. What's the revenue model without the affiliate? So I want to say, I want to interpret what you were trying to say and make sure I understand it. Keep the affiliates. You're having somebody focus on that, like a branch of CrossFit focuses on the affiliates, but CrossFit itself is a media company focusing on health and fitness, putting out information, solidifying what it is that we actually do. Is that
to me? Yeah, I feel like CrossFit. I feel like if you talk to the people at CrossFit, they want it to be a education company.
Okay.
So they want to keep it what Greg Glassman was doing, which is,
hey,
let's make educational videos on the medicine ball squat clean. Let's teach people how to be healthy and fit.
But they did that for free. So where's the money come from?
Let's license the trainers. But like, as soon as they go a step further, they have to do something with the gyms that is standardized, or it's not going to grow. Like, you can't just say do whatever with this after that.
Are you saying franchise? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying I'm not saying they should franchise. It's not like I'm saying it needs to be what they need to decide. And it can't just be wishy-washy. This is a sport, this is a training methodology, and this is a group class fitness thing. Like, because they're conflicting. And when you post on CrossFit training a freaking inverted burpee, you're telling people that that's what CrossFit training is. And then when you post on CrossFit Games a log muscle up or whatever, like some crazy handstand walking on parallettes, like, people say, oh, I can't do that. That's CrossFit training.
Right.
And then you have this methodology where once people are in the affiliate, they're like, oh, I'm going to go take the L1. And the L1 is like so different than what we actually all do in our gyms. It's just like you're setting yourself up for failure.
I understand what you're saying, and I have none of the answers to fix that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Okay. So maybe that's how they feel too.
Right. I mean, I think they don't want to give it up. Like, I think there's a part where it should be like, hey, CrossFit, the activity should be open source. Like, they should just gift that to the world. Greg Glassman gave this idea of constantly varied high intensity functional movement to all of us, and we should take that as a gift. And
it's kind of there now, right? Wouldn't you agree that it is open source currently?
To an extent.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, it's like, what are you paying an affiliate fee for?
The right for me to be able to promote my gym with that
CrossFit
brand. Yeah. I only pay for the name. That's it.
But then when the brand does something you don't agree with, then you're like, what's this brand I'm paying for? Because I care about the activity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think Clang and Bang, I don't think either of us would disagree with this. Monroe and I are in this business, not because either of us expect to get rich, but because we generally like absolutely care about that sort of stuff, like working with people in that way. It's only reason we survived is passion for that sort of thing. So,
and if you want to help us survive, keep supporting us.
Yeah. Hey, I like that. All right. We're going to end there. Thank you for sticking around a little longer than normal, but that was a lot of fun. So
for sure.
Okay.
Thanks for
all right.
having me on, man.
Monroe's working on a book. He's got his gym. He's got a competition coming up. What else?
That's it.
Oh, online coaching.
Yep.
If you want a remote coach, he'll do remote coaching for you.
Yep.
Yeah, he can do it all. Reach out to Monroe, and he's a hell of a content creator. Check out his YouTube and his Instagram. You probably already follow him based on his numbers. So if not, join the group. Okay. Oh yeah. And Don Neary, last call. Pump Ship. Pump Ship's available now if you want to check out a fun little bodybuilding hybrid CrossFit 6-week program. It's available. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Thank you.